Hi everyone. Today I'll be walking you through the demo of Recurly platform. In the next 30 minutes or so, you'll learn about the key functionality of Recurly and benefits Recurly can bring to your business. From my experience serving this industry, I've learned that most B2B companies are looking to test, configure, and pivot their plans as needed to keep up with their evolving business needs. Managing subscribers at the point of acquisition, as well as the point of retention, all while providing a superior experience is key. In order to do so, they need a comprehensive platform that meets their needs, fits into their existing tech stack, and can give them insights informing decision making. As a quick reminder, Recurly is an all-in-one integrated subscription management and billing platform with everything you need to manage and optimize your subscription strategy, from acquisition to retention. Now let's have a look at how Recurly fits into your existing workflows and tech stack with pre-built integrations for CRM, ERP, and data systems, as well as payment gateways, accounting, tax, and fraud. So what we're looking at here is essentially where Recurly fits into your ecosystem. So starting from the left, what you'll see here is folks may be signing up either through your own merchant site or using some sort of quote to cash process such as Salesforce. So whether it be assisted sales or self sign-up, they will be flowing into Recurly. In the middle here, Recurly will be handling the plans and pricing, as well as managing payments and all billing, and giving you reporting on those transactions. To the right, you'll see that you can be connected to multiple gateways, and Recurly will be managing those integrations. You simply have to have the credentials and share them with Recurly, but Recurly will be storing and vaulting those payment methods. On the bottom here, this is really just representing the different systems that we may be integrating with, such as your CRM, your ERP, taxation, which is typically driven through Avalara or Vertex, as well as fraud management. Now that we've looked at Recurly at a high level and have an understanding of where Recurly fits in your tech stack, we can now start exploring key subscription management, billing, and payment functionality that Recurly platform offers. These tools are designed for your business's ever-evolving needs, staying ahead of the competition and adapting to changing market conditions. We'll start by looking at plans, and think of plans as your different offerings. Now, what we see here, and specifically what we're looking at, is the Recurly Admin Console. On the left-hand side, you'll see a series of menus. You'll see Customers, Analytics, Configuration, and this is a submenu of Configuration. And specifically, we're looking at the Plans page. We'll start by exploring creating a new plan. So I'll click New Plan in the upper right-hand corner, and I will call this plan Cloud Secure Enterprise Platform A. So we'll give this a plan code. So again, we named the plan, and then we have a plan code, and the plan code is the unique identifier that would be used predominantly via API. And you'll see if you hover over these areas, you can see some additional information about these. There's also an optional plan description, as you'll see right here. This next section is where you can build in a free trial. So if free trials are not part of your use case, you can skip over that. If they are, you may choose to build them in at the plan level, and you could select customized trial length as needed. I'll pick 7 days as an example. And then you can also decide if you'd like to require billing information at sign up or not. So the best practice is typically to require it, but you may have a use case where you do not want to require it. For now, I'll leave the trial off. This next section is called setup fee, and this is a built-in one-time setup fee if you want to use that. So for example, if you have a licensing fee, a setup fee, things like that, you're able to build that directly into the plan. That can also be set up as an item, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now you'll also note there's a variety of currencies listed below here. So this is a two-step process for enabling currency. So I'm going to quickly jump over to configuration and currency section, as you'll see on screen here. And the ones in green denote that they have been enabled in this particular sandbox. And below you'll see approximately 140 different currencies that Recurly supports. So the two steps are to first enable it on the Recurly side, and you would just simply click enable as needed. The second step is to go to your payment gateway and then enable the currencies at the gateway level. So you can see that here on configure currencies for this example with Add-on. So those are the two steps that are required, and very often what gateway you use will be dictated by what currencies you need to process in. So going back to the plan, once you've enabled your currencies, you can then price accordingly. For now, I'll stick to USD for this example, and I'll put in a $5,000 one-time setup fee, and I'll just call it setup fee for the accounting code. So you'll note that at each charge level you'll get an accounting code. Then optionally, you can leverage our revenue recognition within Recurly. Now note that you might be using something like NetSuite, so it's likely that you could use another system for your revenue recognition, but we do have a seamless integration with NetSuite, and we can certainly pair up with other systems as well. Otherwise, you do have this built-in revenue recognition module where you can apply a rule at the charge level, and those rules are do not recognize, recognize daily through the billing cycle, or at the start or end of that billing cycle. Scrolling down a little bit, this is where we get into the structure of the plan itself. So this is where we determine, for example, the billing cadence. Since this is a B2B use case, I'm going to choose yearly. That's what I see most typically. So we have an annual contract, and then we can also determine if there is a term for that. So is it more than 1 year at a time? So you could build in different terms for that initial subscription. These are placeholders though, so you can override the term and if it's auto renew or not as needed. And also going back to pricing for a moment, these all can be dictated via API or through your assisted sales flow. So it's somewhat likely that you may be discounting or changing these prices along the way. So think of these as placeholders. So once we've determined the billing configuration, in this case an annual cadence, and we've determined the default term, and if it's a renewing subscription or not, we then get into the pricing for that the recurring charge. So I'll put in a fictitious price of $2,000, and that would recur each year. And again, you can price in your different currencies, and your customers can pay in their local currencies as needed. Now scrolling down, we get into the billing details. This is where you're going to determine if a charge is tax eligible. So I'm going to jump back over to our configuration section, and we're going to go into taxes here. And this is where you can enable taxes via Avalara or Vertex. Those are the two systems we support. And optionally, you can have a full service with them. So if you have an Avalara credential, for example, you would connect those credentials and take advantage of the additional Ava tax services. Otherwise, you're simply going to determine where you'd like to levy those taxes. And as you can see, those are all listed below here. And going back to the plan, this box is what will determine if the charge itself is a taxable event or not. If you have an Ava tax service, you'll also get a tax code as well as determining the tax type. And you can have an accounting code for this, so I'll give it an accounting code. And once again, you also get that optional revenue recognition rule at the charge level. Now this next section is what we call Recurly add-ons, and they give you a wealth of flexibility to configure your pricing and keep offers unique and differentiated without creating more work and manual inefficiencies for your internal teams on the back end. So it's really as simple as two approaches. One is on this left-hand drop-down, you can create reusable items. So you'll see here, as I scroll down, you'll see a variety of items. And I'll just kind of scroll down a little bit so you can get a sense of that. Now, what I'll do here is I'll create a new add-on from scratch. So again, if you had items that you wanted to leverage to attach into the plan, you can bring them in here. I'll go ahead and create a brand new add-on, and we'll call this Seats, because we're going to be selling part of this subscription is customers will create or select how many seats they want. And you'll also note you can do this by charging at the beginning of a billing period where the customer would self-select that amount of seats, or you can build this at the end of the billing period where you look back over that previous billing period, load in that value via API to Recurly, and then we bill them accordingly. In this example, I'll use the beginning of the billing cycle. And again, you can also determine that taxable type here. From there, you would choose your pricing model. So you'll see in this dropdown, we have fixed price, tiered, volume, and stair-step as our pricing models. For this example, I'll use a tiered approach. Since in this case, we're going to encourage people to sign up for more seats by lowering the price as they add more. So the first 10 seats, I'll make up a fictitious price of $100 per seat. 11 to 25, we'll discount that down to $90 per seat. And if they choose over 25 seats, so 26 and above, we'll discount that further to 80 per seat. And again, you can price it, of course, as needed and have as many of these tiers as are needed. So I could continue to add those tiers. There's also a built-in tool that allows you to put in an example for pricing so you can see how that will price out. Now, I do want to note there's quite a few ways to structure your pricing and billing in Recurly. So typically what we'll do is we'll have a Recurly specialist like myself that will be happy to walk you through navigating all the options and choosing the setup that's best for your business and what your customer is expecting. And to a even greater degree, sometimes what your finance and accounting needs are. So I did want to mention that because there's typically at least two, if not three or four ways to structure pricing on the billing side that will have the same result but may present on an invoice or to your accounting systems in a different way. So just to repeat a little bit of what we talked about earlier, you'll still have that revenue recognition rule if you decide to use that within Recurly. And if you're using hosted pages, you can decide if you want to make this an optional add-on or not. In this case, I'm actually going to make it a required add-on. And again, you can add as many of these add-ons as are needed. So that previous one was seats. We might have others that are related to professional services hours or things like that. So as we get near the bottom of the plan, we note a couple things here. You have additional options around customer emails. So these are the ones that are related more specifically to the plan. So you'll see things like new subscription, subscription change, and renewal reminder. Part of the reason this is at the plan level is that you may have, for example, a yearly plan versus a monthly plan. You may decide for the yearly to use that renewal reminder, but perhaps deselect it for a monthly plan. Now, what this really looks like within Recurly under configuration, you'll see all of these different email templates. So I'll bring over to that page for just a moment. These are all of our different email templates, and you could also think of these as notifications. Now, you will have full HTML control over these. You'll have your header and your footer, so you'll be able to brand them as needed. This is also where you'll determine your invoicing, new subscription, renewals, if you use gift cards or your dunning cadences. Now, just to give you an example, I'll click into this new subscription and we'll take a look at the template. Because I do want you to note that you do have full HTML control over this template. And so you can see here, this is the code. You can rewrite it fully if you'd like. You're welcome to use the suggested wording in these, or again, you can rewrite them as needed. And they will be coming from you. So the from will be your own email, and you will be able to fully brand these as needed. So Recurly is the system that is generating those to come out, but you do have full control over that otherwise. So I'll go ahead and hit create plan, and then we'll move on to our next section within Recurly. Earlier, we were discussing plan setup, and we touched on payment gateway, mostly under the context of currencies. So we talked about adding currencies in Recurly and then ensuring that your gateway supports those currencies and adding them to the gateway. Now I want to shift gears a little bit, go a little bit deeper around payment gateways, and first talk about adding payment gateways. So I'm going to click Add Payment Gateway under our gateway actions. And in this sandbox, you'll see roughly 20 gateways that are available. So Recurly really wants to help you reach those subscribers worldwide by connecting you to your choice of gateways. And as you can see, there's over 20 gateways we support and accepting payments in over 140 currencies. So by choosing the right gateway strategy, you can optimize for transaction costs, you can maximize payment success, etc. And you can connect as many gateways as necessary for the success of your business because we do store and vault those payment methods. If you already have your gateway credentials, it's really just a matter of putting in and sharing those credentials. So I'll pick Adyen as an example. And we would just simply input those Adyen credentials as needed to get that up and running. And again, that includes things like enabling your card types and what currencies you want to process in. Now, a Recurly specialist is happy to walk you through the nuances of multi-gateway strategy and the benefits of adopting a multi-gateway strategy. Now, that could include things like the cost of acceptance, you could streamline internal processes and reconciliation. And it also could be as simple as just wanting a backup gateway in case there's a gateway that's down and having that gateway failover. And this is also where you'll set up the payment options that you would like to accept. So you can give your customers and your subscribers the flexibility to pay with major credit cards, debit cards, ACH, digital wallets like Amazon Pay and Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal, as well as local payment methods including SEPA, UnionPay, Bax, and Bex. So as you think about as your business scales, this is going to become a really important part of your strategy. We're going to now shift our attention back to the plans, and we're going to talk about two primary things. One is the hosted payment pages, and the other would be Recurly.js, which is kind of the customized version of a hosted page. So I'm going to click in this upper right-hand corner and launch this hosted payment page here. And what we'll see is a very lightly configured and customized page. You can see the Cloud Secure logo. You can see that I'm in the US dollar because that's what I've priced it in. And I'll go ahead and fill out a fictitious customer here. I'll do Clark Kent as the customer, and I'll put in a fake email. We can skip the phone number. And then down below here, you can see all the different payment methods that are available. And again, this is going to be dictated by what you would like to offer your customers. In this sandbox, we can see credit card, bank account, or ACH, and PayPal, and there could be others. I'll go ahead and put in a fictitious credit card so we can pass this through. And let me just populate these fields as needed. All right, and we'll put in a fake address as well. So as you may recall, we had a $2,000 platform recurring fee. We have a one-time setup fee of $5,000, and then we gave the option to select how many seats you'll need. I'll go ahead and select 14. That is my lucky number. And we can see that calculates out to $1,360 based on the pricing of that tiered pricing. I'll go ahead and click here to sign up. From here, we'll get a confirmation page, and you can control to a certain degree what this says and this wording here. And now I'm going to go back to the Recurly sandbox here, and we're going to go into accounts because we were in plans. Now we're going to go up to accounts. We'll see the Clark Kent account here. And we will see the subscription that was created for Clark Kent called Cloud Secure Enterprise Platform A. And we'll see some of those components. We'll see that we picked 14 seats, and based on the tiered structure, we can see how that priced out. We can see the totals here. We can see the charges broken out in this section, as well as the invoice that was generated and the totals. Now, as you would expect on the account, everything that is related to this account will point back to it. So all the account information, contact information, billing information, etc., points back to this account. Now, functionally, all the account pages allows you to have full view of the customer's information, and you can maintain the subscription changes with ease. So upgrades, downgrades, refunds, credits, and more. And this allows you to respond to your customers' needs better and strengthen those relationships and drive more subscriber loyalty. Now, keeping in mind, Recurly is PCI DSS Level 1 compliant. We do store and vault the credit cards, and you'll note here in this section on the billing side, we do not reveal the full billing information. So if I go into edit mode, we will not be able to view that information. It's always going to be just the last four displayed here. Now going back down a little bit, you'll see these hosted pages. In addition to that sign up page that we talked about earlier, there's also the notion of a hosted account management page. So let me go ahead and launch this. And similar to what we saw earlier, you'll see some similar in terms of the branding. You'll bring in your logo, you can decide on the colors, etc. But this allows your customers to really have a full view into their accounts, and this requires very, very little setup. You can launch these very, very quickly, so you're not, draining your development resources, etc. Now, keeping in mind for both the hosted payment page as well as this hosted account management page, if you need more control over the look and feel, you're absolutely welcome to build the portals using Recurly.js, and that really just allows us to use our snippet of code for storing and vaulting the credit cards. So getting back to this hosted account page, you can see things like your subscription. You may or may not give them the ability to cancel. You may want them to have the ability to update their payment methods, or perhaps switch to a completely new method. So that's, maybe they want to switch to ACH, for example. They can view invoices. If invoices are past due, they can make payments on those, as well as general things such as updating emails and contact information. We're now going to shift gears to a completely different section of Recurly than we've talked about. So we've talked about configuration a bit. We've talked about customers. Now we're going to drop down into analytics and talk about analytics and exports. So what we see here on the left is a series of dashboards. There's 12 built-in dashboards, with the top one being called dashboard. So I'll start with that one and we can talk through it. Now this is anonymized customer data. And so what we're seeing here is this is data-driven decision-making dashboards where you can look at things like your subscriber growth, churn rates, long-term value. These are powered by Looker, and it allows you to select and deselect attributes. So I can do that as needed and then export or share that data. As I scroll down, you get further looks into your business, such as your plan performance, again, subscriber growth by plan. You can look at the ARPU for your customers. You can see the MRR and recovered revenue, which we'll touch on a little bit later in more depth. So that is the top level dashboard. And then you can think of each of these dashboards as looking into a different layer of the company. So subscribers is going to look at, specifically subscriber growth. Plan will be more granular around plan performance. Let's look at trial performance as an example. So if you're building in trials into your plans, it's very likely you're going to want to be looking at, how are the conversion rates going, and perhaps even experimenting with different types of trials. So maybe a 7 versus 14-day trial and things like that. So this gives you all a look into all those areas in terms of conversion rates. What is the status? Are they converting? Are they canceling, etc. So some really actionable information there. And similarly, the MRR report, the monthly recurring revenue, is going to not just give you the general revenue that's happening month over month, but then measure that against things like churn, contraction, expansion, and net new. And again, you can select and deselect those attributes as needed, and then export and share. So some really, really nice reports that are built out of box here. Continuing on the theme of churn, we do have a churn analysis dashboard overview, and it calculates the number of subscribers that have expired during a selected period of time, and then sectioned by expiration reasons. So each expiration reason is then categorized into one of two types of churn, voluntary or involuntary, and you can see that at the top here. So it's probably self-explanatory, but just to expand on this, voluntary essentially means I no longer want the service, so I'm going to cancel. I'm self-selecting to cancel, whereas involuntary, it typically means I like the service, but the payment method I have on file is for whatever reason not passing. And so that's where a lot of Recurly's proactive measures come into play. And then as you scroll down, you can actually see the different churn reasons, and that gives you a lot of actionable data. The last one I want to focus on in terms of dashboards is our revenue recovery. So this is where you can learn how much revenue recovery is happening, through your dunning management and then involuntary churn prevention tools. And this really is Recurly's, where we shine the most. We're best in class in terms of recovering as much as 73% of at-risk transactions. It helps you increase your customer lifetime value as well and recover more revenue. So if you're allowing your customers to pay with credit cards, you can certainly see some failed payments and cards that aren't getting updated. And Recurly stores and vaults that credit card data, and we have a lot of ability around retry logic and account update, as well as expiration date push. So you'll see down here in this section, you see intelligent retries, you see account updater, you see expired credit card, and then backup payment method. So I'm going to expand on those for just a moment, and those are really kind of the 4 pillars of our recovered revenue. So intelligent retries, that's really just talking about our machine learning and putting a lot of logic around how we're going to retry that card. Account updater is a bit more straightforward, where we're going to go ahead and get that card that's been updated by the issuer, then we can make that update. Expired card management is where, based on the type of card, so whether it be, for example, Visa versus American Express, they have different expiration cadences, and we can push that expiration date based on that, as well as if you're using a feature called Wallet, where you can have multiple payment methods on file, we could have a backup payment method to help recover additional revenue. And so this, again, will give you a measurement based on whatever time frame you're looking for. Now, the last section in analytics is really important, and this is what we call our export section. So Recurly does offer a variety of exports that provide you with the data that you need for further reporting and analysis. So if you don't find it in the dashboards, you're typically going to be directed to exports. You can then transfer that data from Recurly into other business systems and configure automated exports to retrieve that data on a daily basis. So you pair exports with custom fields to unify data for disparate systems or deepening subscriber insights. Now, keep in mind, this can be scheduled via API. I'm showing you it directly in Recurly, but all of these things can be scheduled and brought to fruition via API. And while we're on the subject of APIs, let's just take a quick peek at our API documentation. So if you go to developers.recurly.com, you can access all of our API, Recurly.js, webhooks, etc. So I'll just quickly pull up our latest API versions. And this is where you can then dig in and uncover all of our open APIs and understand how Recurly may be communicating with other systems as well. And that concludes the demo. I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today. We covered the key parts of Recurly, an integrated subscription management and billing platform with everything you need to manage and optimize your subscription strategy, from acquisition to retention to analytics. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us and schedule a demo. Thanks so much.